Senator from Missouri.
Madam President, I ask that the quorum call be suspended.
Without objection.
Madam President, I am here today to talk about the kids and parents of Jana Elementary School and to talk about the measure of justice that they deserve for the ordeal that they are facing now, for the ordeal that they have been put through for months, and frankly, for the ordeal that they have suffered through years and years and years of lies from the federal government, of misdirection from the federal government, and frankly, of outright falsehoods that this community has had to endure. Jana Elementary School is a small school in the Hazelwood School District. That's Florissant, Missouri. That's the St. Louis area. In October of this last year, Jana Elementary was closed. Why? Because they woke up to find out that their school was contaminated with radioactive material. Imagine being a parent and waking up to this headline: Missouri Elementary School to close after reports find radioactive contamination. Where was the radioactive contamination, you may ask? Well, it was on the playground. It was in the kitchens of the school. It was in the air ducts. And where did it come from? How did radioactive material get into an elementary school in the St. Louis area? Well, the answer is it came from the federal government. Let me tell you just a little story about the Hazelwood School District and about Florissant and about St. Louis. And it dates back to the 1940s when the federal government used a site in St. Louis as one of the processing centers for the Manhattan Project. Well, when that project wrapped up in the late 1940s, the federal government collected the radioactive waste and transferred it out of the area, no, just to the site of the St. Louis airport, and there it sat for decades. And by sat, I mean it leached into the air, it leached into the soil, it leached into the groundwater. And so what happened? Over the course of 25 years and more, this radioactive material got into the water of a creek called Coldwater Creek. It's been tested many times, radioactive material found there numerous times. And where does that creek go? Well, all along the St. Louis area through numerous communities, but also right by Jana Elementary School, right along the school grounds, right along the playground, a creek that is known to the United States government to be contaminated with radioactive material that the United States government allowed to be put into the water. This last fall, the school board quite reasonably took the step of saying, hold on, we know it's in the water. We know that this creek goes right by the playground of this school, within 1,000 feet of the building itself. Maybe we ought to test the building just to see if our kids are safe. And so they did. Now, the U.S. government wouldn't do it, I'd just like to point out. Now, it wasn't the government that tested the building. The school board paid for it itself. The parents had to demand it. They went and got a third party to go and test the building. And what did they find? That this radioactive contamination wasn't just in the water. It wasn't just by the playground. It wasn't just within 1,000 feet of the school. No, it was inside the building. It was in the dust that is in the building that these school children, elementary kids, are going to and playing in the air that they are breathing in every single day. And so the school board didn't have any choice. I mean, they found radioactive contamination in their kids' building, so they shut down the school. And, you know, they told the parents, guess what? There's radioactive contamination in the building. What are we going to do? We're going to shut down the school. Now, I'd just like to point out, these are working people. These people are not sitting around all day. They're out there working jobs, some of them multiple jobs. Some of them are raising the kids on their own. So what do they hear in October? We're going to close your school. We're going to send your kids online for virtual learning. And I remember one mother saying, there is no such thing as virtual learning. That just means they're not learning. That means that they're home with me. And what are the parents supposed to do? They're working. They're trying to provide for their family. Now you got the kids at home not learning. You got the parents unable to work. What was the solution after that? To bus the kids to different schools all over the area. Now they can't go to school in their own neighborhood. And what's happened to the Jana Elementary building? Well, it just sits there. Because what is the federal government that caused this contamination? What are they doing about all of this? Nothing. No, nothing. The parents have gotten the runaround for months now from the federal government. When the reports came out that the building was contaminated, the parents and the school board asked the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, who are supposed to be in charge of cleaning up this site, they said, would you test the building inside and see if you can verify these results? But the Army Corps said, no, we can't. We don't have any authorization. We can't do any further testing. So then the parents and the school board asked the Department of Energy, and they said, would you test this site? Would you see if you can verify the results? Would you do something about it? And the Department of Energy said, you guessed it. They said, oh no, that's the Army Corps' problem. Now, I kid you not. The parents and the school board have written to the Army Corps, they have written to the Department of Energy, and both of them have just pointed the finger at the other. And it's not just the parents. I've done the same. I sat in a hearing just a few weeks ago with the Department of Energy Deputy Secretary. I said to him, sir, do you know about Jana Elementary in St. Louis, Missouri? He said he did. I said, you know it's closed, don't you? He said he did. I said, will you authorize testing and cleanup for this school? And his comment to me was, that's really a matter for the Army Corps. I said, the Army Corps says it's your problem. And he says, well, I don't really understand their position on this. I don't understand this administration's position on any of it. And so I'm on this floor here today on behalf of the parents and the kids of this school district saying it is time to fix it. Now, I've written to the president about this. I wrote to President Biden after the energy secretary gave me the runaround, and I said, listen, it is time for this administration to step up. The Army Corps and the Department of Energy both work for the president. Fix this. Direct them to get their act together, finish the testing, and clean up this school site. That was 2 months ago. I haven't heard a thing. The parents haven't heard a thing. The school board hasn't heard a thing. What they're told is, just wait, just a little longer, we'll get it together, just wait a little more. Do you know the residents of St. Louis have been told to wait a little longer for 4 and 5 decades now? Do you know what's happened in that time? They've seen their friends get cancer in their 30s and 40s. They've seen an explosion of autoimmune diseases. Why do you think that is? You think it maybe has something to do with radioactive contamination in the water and in the soil and in the air put there by the negligence of the United States government? Do you think maybe that's why it is? Do you think that these people should have to wait any longer? I don't. I've introduced legislation that is very simple. We're not trying to rewrite the U.S. code here. It's very simple. It gets justice for these kids. It would order the federal government to clean up the school. Clean it up. If it can't be cleaned up, build a new one. Just that simple. Not complicated, not onerous, not overburdened with regulation. It gives relief. If the president won't act, we should act. Congress should act. Now, let's just tell the truth here. These parents, these working people in this region of St. Louis, they're not high-rolling donors. They don't give major money to the political parties. That doesn't mean they can be forgotten. You and I both know if this had been Silicon Valley Bank, for heaven's sakes, the president would have flown overnight personally to be there and do something about it. While the Silicon Valley billionaires get bailouts that will cost this country billions and billions and billions of dollars, the children and parents of Jana Elementary can't even get their school tested. They can't get a dime in remediation. Well, Mr. President, that is wrong. That is unjust, and we can do something about it. We can send the message that no matter who you are, no matter where you work, no matter how poor you may be, the United States Senate will get something done for you. We ought to send that message today. We ought to send the message that we will not stand by while these kids are consigned to a second and third rate experience of education while these parents are told, just wait a little longer while their school is infested with radioactive contamination, we should send the message we're going to do something about it. I'll tell you this, it's what I told the president. Until he does something about it and until this body acts to get justice for these kids, I'm going to hold every nomination to the Department of Energy, every single one of them, until we can get some justice done at Jana Elementary. And I will come to this floor as long as it takes until we get relief for these kids and for these parents at Jana Elementary. I will not allow their situation to be forgotten, and I will not be told on their behalf, just wait another 50 years. They deserve justice today. And so I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on Environment and Public Works be discharged from further consideration of S-418 and the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration. Further, that the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there objection?
Mr. President, reserving the right to object.
Senator from Delaware.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm interested, and Senator Hawley and I have discussed this issue just today. This is the first I've learned of it in the last 24 hours, and I was pleased to have a chance to discuss it with him. Coincidentally, we're facing at the Dover Air Force Base, believed to be maybe the finest airlift base in the country, where we have literally thousands of people, uniformed personnel, and probably another 1,000 civilian employees, and a bunch of children who are involved in a school that is being rebuilt and replaced on the base. But I explained to Senator Hawley, we face an issue a little different from the one that he is explaining, but one that reminds me that there are children's lives, health at stake, and their future is maybe not in the balance, but it's a matter of concern. And so we are facing, as I said, a situation that reminds me a little bit of this in Delaware in real time. Our school construction issue at the Dover Air Force Base and safety issues there that are related to it have led my staff, my Delaware staff, and me to work with the Army Corps of Engineers in order to make sure that the issues that are particular to the Dover Air Force Base and our school at the base, it's actually a replacement school, to make sure that they are addressed. So again, I am more than just a little bit interested, but a concern about the issues that are outlined here. My concern with not spending more than like a few minutes in the last 8 hours trying to learn a little bit more about the issue here is I've learned that the drafting of Senator Hawley's bill, however, to some is confusing and raises some serious implementation concerns based on the initial feedback we received from both the Army Corps of Engineers and the U.S. Department of Energy, as well as from the initial read of the legislation from members of my staff. Just a couple of points. First, the bill appears to overlap a number of authorities between these two agencies, and the drafting of the text is not clear on which agency should be responsible for the remediation or construction of a new school. Second, the Army Corps of Engineers is telling my staff that from all the testing done, the agency determined the school to be safe, and the results have been corroborated by an independent third testing party. And having not been steeped in this for days or weeks, but really for minutes, I need some time. I think my staff would appreciate some more time to work with the Army Corps of Engineers and the Department of Energy to understand how we can help Senator Hawley's constituents, including the very young ones that are involved in this. And with that, I'm going to object at this time to Senator Hawley's unanimous consent request in order to provide us with the time to work with the Army Corps of Engineers and the Department of Energy on a solution for this problem that will lead to its resolution. And with that, I object.
Mr. President.
Senator from Missouri.
Mr. President, I appreciated Senator Carper's conversation with me earlier today, where he committed to me that he wanted to work to get this resolution, to get this issue resolved, and to get this situation for these parents and kids remedied. so that they get the justice that they deserve. I just want to point out that Senator Carper may be the first person in the federal government that I've talked to in months on this issue who has actually said, you know what, I think we can do something about it. So I hope that we can, Senator. And I would just say to the Army Corps and to the Department of Energy and to others in the federal government and the administration who would say delay, 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 the school is safe, the grounds are okay, take our word for it. The people of St. Louis have taken your word for it for 50 years. This is where we are now. These kids deserve relief. No child should be told, it's all right, there's a contaminated stream near your elementary school. It's okay, go ahead, go out and play there. No way. And I say again, just because these kids and parents aren't rich and wealthy and well-connected does not mean that they can be ignored. So I will continue to come to this floor and to insist on votes on nominees until we can get something done. And I appreciate the goodwill of Senator Carper, and I look forward to working with him on this issue. I yield the floor. Thank you, Mr. President.